You wake up tired, you eat well, you walk, you try to take care of yourself, but her belly keeps growing, and the worst part, the scale hardly changes. My weight is almost the same as before, but my waist has changed. My clothes don't fit the same way anymore, and my body seems to respond completely differently to the same habits that worked years ago. Then you think, it's age, it's stress, I need to be more disciplined. But what if I told you that this isn't a weakness of yours? What if I told you that there's something happening inside your body silently for years that no doctor has stopped to explain properly? Today I'm going to show you 7 signs your body is giving you right now. Signs that most women completely ignore. Signs that may be directly linked to a hormonal phase that begins much earlier than you imagine. This phase is called perimenopause, and it may be behind your belly fat, your tiredness, your sleepless nights, your unexplained irritability, and your feeling that your body has simply stopped responding. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what you're about to hear could completely change the way you see your own body. And more than that, it could finally give you the answer you've been searching for years. But before we continue, subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications, because we publish content like this every week, content that nobody tells you in the doctor's office, and you won't want to miss it. Before we talk about the 7 signs, I need you to understand something fundamental about your own body. Your hormones don't just regulate your menstrual cycle, they regulate everything. Estrogen and progesterone, the 2 main female hormones, are responsible for your sleep, weight, mood, energy, memory, skin, sex drive, and your entire metabolism. When these hormones are balanced, the body functions well. You sleep, you maintain your weight more easily, you have energy for the day, you think clearly, and you feel good in your own skin. But when they start to wobble, the whole body feels the impact. And that's exactly what happens during perimenopause. Not overnight, not dramatically at the beginning, silently, gradually, almost imperceptibly. And that's why so many women spend years without understanding what's happening to them. Now I need to tell you about something that most women simply don't know. The definitive menopause, the one most people are familiar with, when the menstrual cycle stops completely, usually happens between the ages of 48 and 52. But there is a phase that begins much earlier than that, sometimes 5, 8, even 10 years before. This phase is called perimenopause. During perimenopause, estrogen and progesterone levels begin to fluctuate irregularly. They don't drop all at once, they rise and fall. Rise and fall. And these fluctuations are responsible for a series of changes in the body that most women attribute to other causes. You think you're gaining weight because you ate poorly last week. You think you're tired because you've worked too hard. You think you're anxious because life is difficult. You think you're forgetting things because you're overwhelmed. But it could be hormonal. It could be happening to you right now, and you might not even realize it. Perimenopause is undoubtedly the most silent and neglected phase of women's health. And today we're going to talk about the 7 signs your body may be giving you to let you know that this transition has already begun. The first sign is increasing difficulty in losing abdominal fat, even without changing habits. This is the sign that confuses women the most, and that's exactly why it's so important. You didn't eat differently. You didn't stop exercising. You didn't abandon your diet, but your belly gradually grew. Your waistline changed, and no matter how hard you try, the abdominal fat seems to be here to stay. This happens because estrogen directly influences how your body distributes and stores fat. When estrogen levels are stable, the female body tends to store fat in the hips, thighs, and buttocks. This is the famous gynoid pattern, that pear shape that is characteristic of women. But when estrogen levels begin to fall and fluctuate, the body changes strategy. It starts storing fat in the abdomen, in the visceral region, in the belly. Not because you're eating more, not because you're moving less, but because the hormonal signaling that controlled where fat would be stored has changed. And this is a very common mistake that women make, continuing to think that the problem is just calories, that it's just willpower, that it's just discipline, when in reality the problem might be hormonal. And it could be happening to you right now without you even realizing it. The abdominal fat that appears after age 40 is often not regular fat, it's visceral fat. And visceral fat isn't just about aesthetics, it surrounds internal organs. It's associated with chronic inflammation, insulin resistance, and increased cardiovascular risk. So if you're noticing that your belly is changing even without major changes in your habits, your body may be giving you the first sign that perimenopause has already begun. The second sign is a change in sleep patterns. And I'm not just talking about insomnia. I'm talking about something more subtle, which most women don't even recognize as a hormonal symptom. You wake up in the middle of the night for no apparent reason. You lie down tired but have trouble falling asleep. You sleep your usual hours but wake up without that feeling of rest. Your sleep has become lighter, more fragmented, less restorative. This is a sign, and it's much more common than you think. During perimenopause, fluctuations in estrogen and progesterone levels directly affect the brain mechanisms that regulate sleep. Progesterone in particular has a naturally calming and sleep-inducing effect. When its levels begin to decline, sleep worsens. But there's another factor that very few people explain. Poor sleep increases cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone, and elevated cortisol, especially at night and in the early morning, directly stimulates the accumulation of visceral fat, that abdominal fat we just talked about. So there's a cycle that might be happening to you without you realizing it. Hormones fluctuate, sleep worsens, cortisol rises, belly fat grows, and you keep thinking the problem is what you eat. Frequently, poor sleep isn't just a consequence of the stress of modern life. It can be a clear sign that something hormonal is happening inside you. The third sign is persistent fatigue, that tiredness that doesn't go away even after sleeping. Most women going through perimenopause describe this fatigue in a very similar way. I go to sleep and wake up tired. I don't have the same energy as before. It feels like my energy has vanished. And the most common explanation they receive is, you're getting older, or it's the pace of life. But this is a very common mistake, because persistent fatigue is one of the most classic symptoms of hormonal imbalance during perimenopause. Estrogen influences energy production in cells. It acts on mitochondria, which are the structures responsible for generating energy within each cell of your body. When estrogen levels fluctuate, cellular energy production is compromised. Furthermore, the sleep disturbances we discussed earlier exacerbate this fatigue even more. And the combination of poor sleep with hormonal changes creates a fatigue that goes far beyond normal day-to-day tiredness. And there's more. This fatigue directly affects muscle recovery. When you don't recover well, your performance in exercise drops. You feel heavier, slower, with less energy to move. And then a sedentary lifestyle starts to enter the equation, and the cycle worsens. If you are experiencing fatigue that seems inexplicable, that doesn't go away with rest, and that has been present for months or years, your body may be giving you the third sign of perimenopause. The fourth sign is food cravings that seem impossible to control, especially for sugar, sweets, and refined carbohydrates. This is a sign that generates a lot of guilt in women because they think it's a lack of willpower, that it's compulsion, that it's emotional weakness. But it isn't. During perimenopause, hormonal fluctuations directly affect the brain mechanisms linked to reward and appetite. Estrogen influences serotonin, the neurotransmitter of well-being. When estrogen levels drop, serotonin also fluctuates, and the brain begins to seek quick ways to restore this feeling of well-being. And what provides quick pleasure? Sugar, carbohydrates, sweets. But the problem goes beyond desire itself. During perimenopause, insulin sensitivity also begins to change. The body starts processing sugar differently. Glucose that was previously used as energy is now more easily stored as fat. And where does this fat go? To the abdomen. So when you eat a sweet treat today and it feels like it went straight to your stomach, it's not your imagination. It's hormonal biology. This is a very common mistake women make, blaming themselves for food cravings without understanding that these cravings have a clear hormonal origin. If you notice that in recent years your cravings for sweets and carbohydrates have increased, and that you have more difficulty controlling what you eat at certain times of the month or day, this could be the fourth sign that perimenopause is already underway. The fifth sign is mood swings. irritability, anxiety that appears out of nowhere, a feeling of emotional overload that you can't explain. Many women go to the doctor with these symptoms and leave with a diagnosis of anxiety or depression. They receive medication for mood and they still don't understand the real cause of what is happening because no one investigated hormones. At this point, many women begin to realize that the problem may not be a lack of discipline or effort, but rather a combination of hormonal changes that affect metabolism, sleep, energy, and how the body stores fat. And that's exactly why, in addition to proper nutrition, exercise, and medical follow-up, some women have sought complementary alternatives to support this phase of life. If you want to learn about the supplement that many women are using as part of this strategy to support metabolism and well-being during menopause and perimenopause, it's available in the description of this video. Remember, no supplement replaces healthy habits or professional guidance, but it can be part of a broader healthcare plan. Estrogen doesn't just act on the reproductive system, it acts directly on the brain. It influences the levels of serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine, which are the main neurotransmitters responsible for mood, motivation, and emotional control. When estrogen levels begin to fluctuate erratically during perimenopause, the balance of these neurotransmitters is affected. And the result can be exactly what so many women describe: irritability that seems disproportionate, anxiety that appears at unexpected moments, and a feeling that you're on edge for no apparent reason. And there's more. Progesterone, which also fluctuates during this phase, has a natural anxiolytic effect, meaning it naturally calms the nervous system. When its levels drop, feelings of tension and anxiety increase. This is not emotional weakness. This is not you being dramatic. This is not just stress. It could be hormonal, and it might be happening to you right now without you even realizing it. If you've been feeling more irritable, more anxious, and more emotionally unstable than usual over the past few months or years, and routine tests come back normal, but your doctor can't find a clear cause, perhaps hormonal investigation is the next step. Now, I want to give you an important pause here. Did you notice that 5 of the 7 signs we've already seen, abdominal fat, poor sleep, fatigue, food cravings, and mood swings, are symptoms that most women attribute to other causes? Most people think it's stress, that it's the routine, that it's life. Meanwhile, the hormonal imbalance continues. Silent, progressive, without receiving the attention it deserves. This is the tragedy of perimenopause. It spends years inside a woman's body without being recognized, without being treated, without being named. And the next 2 signs are perhaps the most ignored of all. The 6th sign is the gradual loss of muscle mass. This is a sign that almost no woman notices because she doesn't feel it. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't show up in the mirror in an obvious way at first, but it is happening. Starting in perimenopause, the drop in estrogen levels directly affects the body's ability to maintain and build muscle mass. Muscle begins to slowly decrease, and this loss, which seems small at first, has enormous consequences for metabolism. Because muscle is the most metabolically active tissue in your body. The more muscle you have, the more calories your body burns at rest. This is called basal metabolism. When you lose muscle mass, your basal metabolic rate drops, and your body needs fewer calories to function. But you continue eating the same amount as before, and where does the excess go? To your abdomen. Then something happens that is very frustrating and that most women don't understand. The scale hardly changes, but body composition changes completely. You lose muscle and gain fat, and fat takes up more space than muscle. Your waist gets bigger, your body changes shape, your clothes no longer fit, and it feels like your body is betraying you. But he's not cheating, he's responding to hormonal changes. And when you understand that, you stop blaming yourself and start acting intelligently. You may be losing muscle mass right now without realizing it, and without knowing that this is one of the main factors behind your abdominal fat. The 7th sign is silent metabolic changes. This is perhaps the most invisible sign of all because it doesn't have a single symptom. It's a combination of internal changes that accumulate over time. During perimenopause, the body begins to develop progressive insulin resistance. This means that cells become less efficient at responding to insulin signals. And when insulin can't do its job properly, the glucose that should enter the cells and be converted into energy begins to be stored as fat. Furthermore, there is a process of chronic, low-grade inflammation that accompanies hormonal fluctuations. This inflammation doesn't hurt, it doesn't show up in common tests, but it's there, and it contributes to the accumulation of visceral fat, fatigue, mood swings, and a range of other symptoms. And there's something very important to understand. Two women can have exactly the same weight, the same BMI, the same number on the scale, but completely different body compositions. One of them may have much more visceral fat and much less muscle mass. And she won't know that just by looking at the scale. That's why the scale lies. It shows the total weight, but it doesn't show the composition. It doesn't show what's inside. If you've noticed that your body is responding differently to the same habits as before, that it seems easier to gain weight and harder to lose it, that your energy levels are different, and that your metabolism seems to have slowed down, this could be the 7th sign that silent metabolic changes are occurring due to perimenopause. Now that you know the 7 signs, I need to explain what's happening beneath the surface, the science behind these changes. And to illustrate this, I'm going to tell you what institutions like the North American Menopause Society, the National Institutes of Health, the Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic, Harvard Medical School, and Johns Hopkins have already documented very clearly. Estrogen is a hormone with systemic action. This means that it acts on virtually all systems in your body: the cardiovascular system, the central nervous system, the skeletal system, the metabolic system, the skin, the intestines, the brain. When estrogen levels begin to fall during perimenopause and then stabilize at lower levels in definitive menopause, the impact is not localized. It is global. From a metabolic standpoint, estrogen influences insulin sensitivity, fat storage, the function of energy-producing cells, and appetite regulation. With a drop in estrogen, all of these processes are affected simultaneously. From a brain perspective, estrogen regulates the production and activity of key neurotransmitters such as serotonin and dopamine. This is why mood swings, anxiety, and even memory lapses are such common symptoms during this phase. From a sleep perspective, estrogen and progesterone have complementary roles in regulating sleep cycles. With the fluctuation and subsequent decline of these hormones, the architecture of sleep changes. Deep, restorative sleep decreases, and when sleep worsens, cortisol increases. And chronically elevated cortisol promotes the accumulation of abdominal fat, increases insulin resistance, accelerates muscle loss, and further worsens sleep. It's a cycle, and it starts with hormones. The abdominal fat you're seeing after 40 isn't the result of a single factor. It's the result of the interaction between all these processes: hormones, sleep, stress, muscle loss, insulin resistance, inflammation, and metabolic changes. Everything at the same time. Everything connected. And now I need to talk to you about something very serious that few people associate with perimenopause. If the signs are ignored for too long, if hormonal changes don't receive proper attention, the consequences can go far beyond abdominal fat. A sustained drop in estrogen is associated with an increased risk of osteoporosis. Estrogen protects bone density. Without it, bones become more fragile over time. It is associated with an increased risk of cardiovascular disease. Estrogen has a protective effect on blood vessels. With its decline, the risk of hypertension, atherosclerosis, and heart attack increases. It is associated with the development of progressive insulin resistance, which can evolve into prediabetes and type 2 diabetes. And it is associated with an increased risk of clinical depression, not just passing sadness, but a depressive condition that has a hormonal origin and needs to be recognized and treated as such. These are not distant risks. They begin to build silently during perimenopause, when the signs are still subtle and when the window of prevention is still open. That's why recognizing the signs early isn't an exaggeration. It's smart care for your health. But I don't want to end this video by scaring you, because there's so much that can be done, and the sooner you start, the more effective the result. The first and most important strategy is resistance training. Strength training, weightlifting, exercises with weights, not walking alone, not light cardio, real muscle work. Resistance training preserves and rebuilds muscle mass. It keeps the metabolism active, it improves insulin sensitivity, it helps reduce visceral fat. Science is unequivocal on this point. For women in perimenopause and menopause, strength training is the lifestyle intervention with the greatest proven impact on body composition. The second strategy is adequate protein intake. Muscle needs protein to be built and maintained. Many women eat too little protein, and during perimenopause, the need for protein increases. Eggs, chicken, fish, legumes, quality dairy products, and protein sources should be present in all meals of the day. The third strategy is improving sleep quality. Not just quantity, but quality as well. Consistent nighttime routines, a dark and cool environment, reduced screen time before bed, and avoiding caffeine in the afternoon and evening. Quality sleep reduces cortisol, improves insulin sensitivity, and promotes better body composition. The fourth strategy is managing chronic stress. Stress raises cortisol levels. Cortisol increases the accumulation of abdominal fat. Stress management strategies such as meditation, mindful breathing, leisure time, and genuine rest are not luxuries. They are part of a hormonal health protocol. The fifth strategy is an anti-inflammatory diet. Reduce refined sugar, ultra-processed foods, and white flour. Increase consumption of fiber, colorful vegetables, healthy fats like olive oil and avocado, and fermented foods that support gut health. The gut plays a direct role in hormonal regulation, and caring for the gut microbiota is caring for hormones. And the sixth, which is perhaps the most important of all, seek specialized medical care. A doctor who understands women's hormonal health, who investigates your hormones comprehensively, who looks not only at TSH and blood tests, but also at estrogen, progesterone, cortisol, insulin, and body composition. You deserve a thorough investigation. You deserve real answers. And while you're working on all these pillars, muscle strengthening, a protein-rich diet, quality sleep, stress management, and medical follow-up, it's worth remembering that some women also choose to include specific supplements aimed at supporting metabolism and well-being during menopause. If you're interested in learning about the option mentioned in the description, you can check the information available there. The most important thing is to understand that there is no single or miraculous solution. The best results usually emerge when different science-based strategies work together to support the body during this hormonal transition. So let's recap what you learned today. Your body may be giving you 7 signs that perimenopause has already begun. The first is increasing difficulty losing abdominal fat even without changing your habits. The second is changes in sleep patterns, fragmented, light sleep that doesn't truly rest you. The third is persistent fatigue that doesn't go away even after sleeping. The fourth is intense food cravings, especially for sugar and carbohydrates. The fifth is mood swings, irritability, and anxiety that appear without a clear explanation. The sixth is the gradual loss of muscle mass that happens silently over the years. And the seventh is silent metabolic changes, including increased insulin resistance and low-grade chronic inflammation. All these signs are connected. They all have a common hormonal root, and they can all begin to be addressed intelligently when you understand what's really going on. The abdominal fat that appears after 40 is often not a lack of discipline. It's biology, it's hormones. It's a real transition your body is going through. And when you understand that, you stop blaming yourself, you stop punishing yourself, and you start acting strategically and based on science. Because the problem wasn't his willpower, it was all in her hormones. We hope this video has helped you understand signs you may have been ignoring for years. We hope it has given you clarity, not fear, information, not guilt. If this content resonated with you, please leave a like now. This greatly helps the channel grow and continue bringing this type of information to more women who need to hear it. Share this video with a friend, a sister, someone you love who might be going through all of this without understanding why. And subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. Because every week we bring you content like this, content that puts women's health at the center, with science, respect, and the seriousness you deserve. Until the next video.